everyone to another episode of Innovation Alley. We're your hosts. I'm TowelManPurple.
I'm Bjorn.
And what we're going to do is today we're going to go over two decks that we think are going to be great for your set champs. One of them being the one I played at LCQs. But before we do that, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below to stay up to date on all the content.
Yeah, 2 videos a week.
That's right. 2. Not 1, but 2. All right. To start us off, I'm going to go ahead and showcase the Amber Steel Aggro-Fasa deck that I took to LCQs that landed me top 4.
Yeah.
And starting off right at the top, our 1-drops, we had 4 Cinderella, 4 Daisy Duck,
Of course.
and 4 Lilo.
Now, the Lilo, I mean, obviously, Cinderella makes sense because of Steel. You have so many songs you can sing on turn 2. Daisy Duck, everyone plays Daisy Duck if you're Amber. But
Exactly.
Lilo.
Yeah, Lilo. So Lilo has been the it factor for helping us get over the hump against Red Blue. And Red Blue was such in support of representation by numbers that we know we wanted to beat Red Blue. And
Just the
thankfully,
extra cheap questing.
yeah, it's being able to go turn 1 and turn 2, 3 1-drops that quest for 2. It just ended up being very, very punishing for the opponent.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, I can buy that, but having 8 uninkable 1-drops seem a little bit risky. How did you find that?
I am on the fence of, or the side of the fence rather, that your early inkables or your early cost cards being uninkable is much healthier than your late game cards being uninkable because it's easier to suffice.
Yeah. If you have a bunch of uninkable 6 and 7 and 8 costs, that's potentially dangerous. Yeah.
Exactly. And in this list, we only play. We actually play 18 uninkables, but all of them are cheaper in cost. Okay, so we're a little bit higher than normal count, but it's cheaper in cost. Right, so our uninkables, we have 8 visibly here, 3 Calhoun, 3 Along Came Zeus, and 4 Let the Storm Rage On. So
All right. So the fact that 1 cost Lilo the quest for 2 is uninkable didn't really bother you.
no, not at all.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in that case, I see it because having a 1 cost that quests for 2, obviously Daisy is better. If you could choose, you would get 4 Daisies every single time and not a Lilo, right?
Yes, for sure.
But she's still good.
Yeah, I agree. It helps you get over the hump when you're trying to push, those extra points of lore through. Same thing can be said about Lilo, the 2-drop
The
Lilo.
other Lilo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the 2-drop Lilo is just better into the Ruby Amethyst matchup opposed to the Ruby Sapphire matchup. Ruby Sapphire tends to deal with this Lilo in better fashion, where the other one is just faster. This one comes back and, well, if you're coming back against a big Sisu or other cards like that, it really doesn't do much. Or an ice block that somebody keeps challenging in and takes no damage, it's kind of pointless. You're just wasting 2 ink. So this one was just a larger help against the Ruby Amethyst matchup. Then you have your 2-drop Ursula, who, in addition to your Cinderella, is an additional singer, but also is able to sing Zeus, which can be extremely relevant in particular matchups. Mainly the lower to the ground steel matchups, that becomes more relevant.
Yeah.
Because if you're playing
have
against
3 Along Came Zeus. That's a lot of Zeuses.
Yes, 3 Zeus.
But you found it to be a very important card, dealing 5 damage, pretty good.
I mean, if you're killing any type of Maui, whether it's the regular one or the shark, I think it's pretty good. Right now, that's an important number. I see that we have 3 Calhouns, which also really, really good to the low to the ground decks. And 4 Mr. Smee, also a very, very powerhouse early quester with a good stat line. The same can be said about the 4 copies of Lawrence. like a 3-cost 4/4 that quests for 2 is very insane. You know, with Daisy here, Ursula, Lawrence, and even Smee allowing you to set up like multiple avenues for Rapunzel trapping your opponent makes the game go heavily in your favor if they are not playing precisely around it. The same can be said for the 4 copies of Pluto. You know, a 5/5 that when damage gets reduced its power allows you to Rapunzel trap with that card as well.
Yep.
Pete,
They want to damage it, but if they do, you can punish with Rapunzel.
yeah, so if they damage it, they need to finish.
Yeah.
They have to clear it.
So if we go back to the Calhoun,
Yes.
so the good thing with it is that it can challenge almost anything, right? Like Daisy is a little bit too big, but most things it can just chew through, right?
Yeah.
Like
it
of the
does
early
very
game
well.
stuff. The early game stuff, yeah.
Most of the early game stuff it does very well against.
Yeah.
And it allows you to act as a shift Robin Hood by gaining the 2 lore upon banishing.
Yeah,
So,
it's the same ability. And besides that lore, like if you compare it to Mr. Smee is a pretty good attacker too. However, he takes 1 extra damage at the end of the turn, which Calhoun just doesn't.
right. Exactly. And then
So Mr. Smee is good for questing, Calhoun good for challenging, super good 2-drops. And then Lawrence is,
he's just the beef.
yeah,
he's the beef.
Like Smee and Pluto, you can just use Rapunzel to heal him, and then everything is well in the world again, right?
Yeah. I mean, Pete, he is a timely card in certain matchups, and then in other matchups, it's really good if you can chain him. Like, if you can chain him against Amber Steel and clear their board, it just steals the game. If you chain him against Green Steel, it steals the game.
Yeah.
I mean, Blue-Green's not too popular, but playing Pete against Blue-Green is, like, the most difficult thing for them to overcome.
Did you see any Blue-Green in the LCQ?
Not the LCQ, but there were in some of the competitive constructed events. Aside from that, a timely Pete against any Ruby deck that plays Be Prepared is always good.
I feel like against any Ruby deck or any Steel deck, Pete is always going to be pretty good, right?
Yeah. Also, like a very common situation where the Ruby Sapphire player doesn't get Popsicle on turn 1, and they ramp on turn 2, so their turn 3 they're going to go to 4 ink, and you just play Pete because you stopped there how far ago, you stopped their ramp, and you're just able to buy yourself an extra turn or 2 of questing, and that typically steals the game as well.
That's pretty good.
Then, of course, at our top end, 4 copies of Mufasa.
Mufasa!
Card is just an absolute monster against the Ruby decks. And then we also have Gantu, who has proven himself to also be a monster against these Ruby decks.
Yeah, he's crazy.
I mean, questing for 4 is not something to laugh about. That's crazy work, as the kids say.
That is actually insane.
Yeah. And
I don't know how they printed that card, to be honest.
I don't know. I love it. I think the guy is doing very well. He is the captain replacement for not playing like Captain Hook in a Smee combo deck, right? To combo without having to lose the damage because he triggers the captain. Not that it's super relevant, but it's a nice synergy to have.
And I'm just saying, if you had Just in Time in there, you could get him out on 3.
You could.
So Smee never takes damage.
And I love me some
I'm
Just in
just
Time.
saying.
So. But I'll save the Just in Time for another deck for sure. And then all of these removal spells, all of your songs are just S tier in this type of deck. This style of deck allows you to do everything. Even if you don't have Ursula to play like your Zeus, you're more than okay to sing it with Pluto or Rapunzel. Like, it doesn't really hurt you as long as you can take the same track or the same mentality as a typical Amber Steel deck where you're singing your spells to advance your board state when you spend your ink to add more characters to the board. It's the same concept. You're just doing so with characters that happen to quest more in this deck opposed to a traditional Steel Song list. I would say in the LCQs, round 1 and 2, I played against red-blue, and round 3 and 4, I played against red-purple. Round 4 is where my tournament life ended. We just lost to variance.
Yeah.
I would say, as I look back, there was a time in one of the games in round 4 where I inked a Pluto, and I ended up needing him later on. So that one's on me. And other than that, I tried to ink a card that I probably shouldn't have. You know, it's just the Pluto thing. That's basically what cost me.
Okay, so if you made it to top 4, which is very impressive at LCQ because it's super competitive.
It is.
Uh,
A lot of emotions, high stakes on the line for a lot of people. A lot of good players that were there, right? Like the person I lost to, shout out to Herman on World Class. You know, is on the same team with DKP, Zan, Deo, and all them.
So
Logan, all those guys.
Right. But the decks you did win against, what would you say were the key cards in those specific matchups?
For the decks that I did win against, which were red-blue and also red-purple, key cards: Zeus, Mufasa, Pluto, Pete, and the 1-drop 2 questers.
Yeah. I can imagine. Mufasa's super great into Ruby decks. Pete, shuts down any decks that likes playing actions.
I will say in round 3, my Rapunzel, I Rapunzel trapped my opponent into a huge, draw 3. Because when I Rapunzel trapped, I was able to get, I challenged something to take it out, Rapunzel trapped, then I was able to play another song with the Cindy to clear his board completely. And he was only on 3 ink. I was on the play this game, so it was tough for him.
All right.
That will conclude the Amber Steel Aggro Mufasa deck that I would still suggest taking to your store champs if this is something that you would consider.
In conclusion, this is super strong top 4 at the last chance qualifier, which means that at your local store championship, this will probably do numbers.
Yes, I agree. I think if you guys had any inclination of maybe making some edits or doing some swap around, I think the 3-drop John Silver that prevents a character from challenging is something neat to look into. If there's anything that you think would poise itself to be better against, maybe hedging against red-purple more. I don't know. The deck is just always good overall. But if you find a card that you think will be niche in that area to do so, it's fine.
Is it...
maybe if you wanted more card advantage, you can add Pongo. I think Pongo's a nice add because...
personally... And you can disagree here, but personally, I would just add Piglets. I just love Piglets.
Piglet is good, but it won't help into the Ruby Amethyst match. It'll help against the matchup we're already beating, which is Ruby Sapphire.
Yeah, just Piglet eating a Brawl is always just very sad,
Yes.
So I get it.
Piglet eating a Brawl feels like it messes up your entire plan, right? Like the curve is different. But if a Brawl, rather, decides to eat Lilo, you're like, don't worry, you'll be back. It's a difference. A little bit.
Yeah,
different.
I get that.
Now, Bjorn, let's take a quick look at what you would be bringing to set champs for yourself.
Yeah, what I am this weekend. This might be familiar.
Hey.
See, we already did a video on this deck, but the truth is, I have, since this video came out, I have changed this deck a lot, and I changed it, and changed it, and changed it, and changed it, and then the final version of the deck, I was like, wait a minute, this is exactly the same deck that I made a month ago. Turns out I made the perfect version from the beginning. After changing it numerous times, I just ended it back in the same spot, because I think this is the perfect version for purple Mufasa, right? You got the...
As the cool kids call it, Murple.
Murple, oh yes. I invented it, I get to name. but nobody says Murple because that sounds very sick. But yeah, you have the aggro opener, as you can see. Just the low cost aggressive cards that lets you do like a very like fast questing opener, or at least you have the choice to, especially if you go like 3/1 drops, for example. But otherwise, or well, into the mid game, this deck is most powerful in the middle of the game. You especially if you play a dock on 3, when you get to the 5 cost, it's only really jump off, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because we have Mufasa, we have Belle, we have Elsa, which are all like really great. They do different things, but they all are very powerful in their own regards. And we also have some more expensive cards. We have Eastman for 6, and Elsa is also a 6 if you shift. And then Chernabog usually costs 5 or 6. You only have characters, so your discard is gonna go fill up with characters very quickly. And having a 9/9 quest for 3 on the board is just gonna win you some games.
I mean, he is a monster.
Unless they, have a Maleficent Dragon or a Hades or something, he's not
Dragon
disappearing.
Fire, let it go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if they have to have... people are usually not running too many of those cards, so you might get away with them.
Yeah,
or if the opponent plays Whole New World and you discard your whole hand and you draw a Chernabog and he costs 0, that's always funny. But that's it. Yeah, it's the same as before. I'm bringing this to Store Champs. If anyone lives in Sweden, please don't watch this video.
I would say that I guess this deck, where it's very good, I have played it myself. I have tested it myself. Depending on the meta in your area, I think there are some cards that could flex. Yeah, there would be considerations for maybe running Fox or Crab. Things like that. They would just help hinder your opponent in specific matchups.
Yeah. If you have a lot of like aggro players, you can for sure add cards like that help you challenge. Yep.
But on an overall consensus, this is a very happy median where the list ended up, and you did have it pretty spot on from the beginning, man. The deck was really good and treated me really well in testing.
Yes, it's a strong mid-range deck. Like, it can have an aggressive opening and then it like closes out in the mid game. You will lose if you go to like turn 10 against a control deck, and you will lose if you don't manage to get control of the board before an aggressive opponent wins. So try to keep it in the middle and you'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there you have it. Our 2 versions of decks that we would be taking to our store champs. Now, as I end every segment of this video, if you haven't done so already, please smash that like button and leave a comment below telling us what you feel about these decks, what you like, what you didn't like, if you have any new ideas, or anything to add to what we've already put out. We greatly appreciate it. Yeah, because
we always read them. We love reading your comments.
Always read the comments. We always answer the comments. And we love just to interact with the community because all of you are exceptional. Now, we thank each and every one of you for coming out to these videos as normal and hope that you guys have a successful Set Champ weekend. Take it easy.